Hi, welcome to another session of our online training for PowerSolve DSAS Package 1 DSL Segregator. And for this session, we will be discussing the interpretation of the output for tree construction module. So as we can see, as we simulate the data, the program will produce these results. So this is the summary page of the result. So first we have here the feeder name of the data we simulated. So for our case, we have test_data. Now this is one of the results of the reconstruction. The program requires that the buses are all connected into one tree. So for this field, we have to make sure that the value for this is 1. In case there's a value greater than 1 for this field, it means that there is a problem in the connection of the data. Another part of the result of the reconstruction module is the phasing check errors. So our goal for this field is to make it 0. As we have discussed, this part of the program checks the consistency of the phasing of every branch of the data that we simulated. We also have the branch type check errors. This makes sure that the connection between branches are correct. So for example, a primary line cannot connect directly to a service drop. It has to pass through a distribution transformer. Or a secondary line cannot connect to a primary line overhead, and vice versa. So we have to make sure that the branch type check errors is 0. The branch type check warnings only basically gives you an idea that there are possible errors in the data. Some example of this is a service drop directly connected to a distribution transformer. The program flags this kind of connection. So you just have to check if they are correct or not. So this is not necessarily an error to the data. The next one is the regionality check 1 error. As we have discussed, the program checks for possible loops. So our goal here is to make it 0. We also have the regionality check 2 error, which looks for multiple or duplicate copies of an entry of a branch. Now on the right side, we have trees formed entries in the tree number and the root bus. So if you only have one tree found, that means that there will be only one entry in this portion of the output. But in case we have multiple trees found, the program will list down the tree number and the root bus for every tree found in the data. So we also have here the tabs corresponding to all trees formed, and we also have tabs for every tree formed for a given data. So for this part, we have the different fields for the reconstruction output. First, we have the segment ID, which is the segment ID indicated in the data from every part or component of the network. We have the from bus ID, we have the to bus ID, we have the corresponding phasing of the branch. Now in column E, we have the terminal branch. So it says whether the given branch is a terminal branch or not. So if it says no, it is not yet a terminal branch and there are still branches connected to it. But if it says yes, there is no more branch connected to it, so it's a terminal branch. For this case, it's a primary service drop data, so it's a terminal branch. So the layer, column F, is just an internal numbering of the data in terms of its connections. We have a tree number here, so we want to make sure again it's all 1 for this field. We have the phasing of the from bus. We have the phasing of the to bus. and we have the facing check. So we have to make sure that all of the entries here are okay. If there are some errors, the data will flag it as an error. Then we go to column K. We have the branch type of from bus. So we have the root here. We have the pry-OH, the pry-UG, the DT, and then we have the service UG. We also have pry-SVC-OH, if any. And then we have SEC, or for secondary lines. And we have SSVC for secondary service drop lines. So those basically are the legends for each portion of our network for columns K and L for branch type. And column M, that is the check for the branch type. So as I've mentioned, it checks whether the connections between the two branches are correct or incorrect. So for these cases, we have OK, and if you will notice, there is a flag here for warning or an error. It says that there is a connection between a DT and a secondary service drop. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's an error. You can ignore that is correct. But if it's an error, then you can validate the data and correct it correspondingly. So our goal is to have less errors here. We can have warnings, but you cannot have errors here. So we have again the result check 1. So we have to make sure that every entry is okay. Again, it checks for loops. And then in the result check 2, you have to make sure that everything is okay. So that basically is the result of the reconstruction module, and later on we'll have another session for the results, and it will give you an example of data with errors in the different checks that we have here in this summary. So I hope that helps you in using the reconstruction module. Thank you very much.